in fact, you were the former communications head of Umkhonto Wesizwe at the headquarters in Lusaka back in the day. Let's first get your reaction on this Concord judgment against the public protector. Does this embolden the president?
Well, thanks very much. With respect to the public protector herself, this judgment is quite devastating. What I don't know is how, when President Zuma was found to have failed to uphold the Constitution, the expectation was that Parliament would implement that decision, since they are the ones with the authority to act on a judgment like that. I don't know whether this is not a similar situation where, in fact, the findings of the court, which really were quite harsh, although there was a minority view, the harshness says acting in bad faith and all of that. Then
perpetrating falsehoods?
That would not make a fitting candidate for the office of the public protector. I don't know how Parliament will deal with that.
Mr. Msimang, let's then bring you to the subject that we've brought you here for, and that is the accusations that were made by the former President Jacob Zuma that some senior members of the ANC, Mwako Ramatlhodi and retired General Spiwe Nyanda, were apartheid spies. As a former member of the MK, did you have any knowledge of this?
Well, I should say, as a member of the ANC, long-standing, 60 years almost now, a member of the ANC, I feel really diminished by the behavior of President Zuma during his testimony to the Zondo Commission of State Capture. It was absolutely shocking. It's appalling, in my opinion, highly irresponsible and very destructive to the African National Congress, that he should use that platform to say what he said about Mwako Ramatlhodi and Spiwe Nyanda. And this has nothing to do with whether they were informers of the apartheid regime or not. But to bring that matter out there, when there is a history of him working with these two comrades in the highest offices that you can expect, what does it say of him? When does it become convenient, opportunistic to denounce them like that? Where is the credibility in such a claim at this point in time? Of course, Mwako Ramatlhodi appeared before the commission earlier and said things like the Guptas had wrapped themselves around Zuma like a python. I don't think it sounded nice to Zuma, but he was describing his own sense of feelings about these things. But I just want to say also that, in the earlier days, 1980s, when somebody said you are an informer or a mpimpi, the consequences were that a tire would be found, petrol put in it, and it would be doused and burnt to death. Today, there isn't, fortunately, that kind of tire that will be put around the neck of Ramatlhodi and Nyanda. But the damage to their reputation when they are completely unable to defend themselves is enormous.
Mr. Msimang, the former president, some will say it will be difficult for Mwako Ramatlhodi and Spiwe Nyanda to unentangle themselves around these accusations because it's being made by a person who was head of the ANC intelligence structures back in those days. Do you share the same view? Is it going to be difficult for them to dismiss this out of hand, instead perhaps go for a lie detector test as Mwako Ramatlhodi suggests?
Well, Mwako did ask for it, and I think it should be given to him. If the former president hadn't acted so, if his evidence didn't lack, his behavior didn't lack such credibility, I think this would cause very serious harm. His accusations would cause very serious harm to Spiwe Nyanda and to Ramatlhodi. I don't think it will, although they themselves will feel that here is a person who was a president, we need to prove that this didn't happen. There is no substantiation of this thing. Yes, he should go to, he should put himself in a position where he can confirm this. But I think he would also have to explain to South Africans why he trusted them so much all the time that he gave them responsibilities of this nature. That's where the credibility issue comes up.
There's another specific issue that the former president raises. This is now outside the Commission of Inquiry on Friday, when he says, who gave out the location of Chris Hani's house in Lesotho when a certain person clearly was acting on instructions of a particular general of the apartheid security forces? Who would have given out that location of Chris Hani's house? Because he says, then the instruction from the general was that if there are children in that house, then don't bomb the house. What is the former president getting at? Because this is perhaps one of the saddest and most painful histories just on the eve of the '94 elections. Yes, we're going to Lesotho, but Chris Hani is assassinated in 1993. This was obviously back in the camps, in exile. Where is the former president taking this?
He is insinuating that somebody inside the ANC was an informer for the apartheid regime, and he gave them the location of where children were and where they went. In the first instance, I'm not impressed by that. When you consider how they bombed children in Botswana, they bombed children even in Lesotho. What's the big deal about avoiding children when they have done it elsewhere? What we know about the death of Chris is what I personally, is what I've seen in the court records. I don't know if somebody else led people to, is responsible other than Janus Wallus and this other person were responsible for assassinating.
Clive W.S.
I don't know. But I don't trust what former President Zuma is saying. You know, I was looking at a video clip in the last few days where the parents of Otama Ngwenya, who eventually died in Lusaka, and after undergoing torture and serious mistreatment. And this was an input into the TRC. You remember the TRC? Truth and Reconciliation Committee. This is an official record, and it says the real problem was that there was an issue between bad blood between Zuma and Tamizulu. It's out there. So what are we to make of that? How does a person with such an allegation against him convince others that there are these people who thought he was so important that he should know and he should not continue to be a leader of the ANC? What did he alone do that made the enemy want him so much out of the ANC?
Mr. Msimang, how should the Hani family, particularly the widow of Chris Hani, Dimpo Hani, react to this? How should they treat this information coming from the former president?
I think it's very unfair and very insensitive to be coming up with these things because it has a traumatic impact on the family. I mean, we have got Lindy, who's written a book and describes in great detail what happened about her father's death and how they felt. Dimpo, Mrs. Hani, clearly also would like to put this thing behind. I don't know if she has been told by Jacob Zuma that somebody in the organization was responsible for the death of her husband. I would think that if she had been told that, she would have taken steps to have the matter investigated and not wait for a chance occasion when people are being asked about their conduct regarding the Guptas and state capture to reveal these things.
Talk to us, Mr. Msimang, about why the former president would use such a time to make these revelations. Is this done in spite?
You know, I feel very diminished for being a member of the ANC when one listens to things like this. Here's a person that was our leader at the highest level. He's a person that really is amiable, charming, and all of that. Destroying, doing everything he can at this point to destroy this organization. If he really felt that he needs to expose people who are informers, is this really the platform where this must be done? Is this revenge because his detractors have dragged him to the mud? Are these the actions of a responsible leader? We know what happened during his administration, with his reign as, sorry for the expression, as the leader of, the president of the ANC. You know, I heard them saying that the economy was growing and everything was honky-dory. Go and look at statistics of how GDP in this country, the economy has not been growing, it's stagnated. There were times when there were external forces that influenced the economy, etc., etc. But you have people who just come forward with a bold statement, hey, his performance economically was outstanding. Well, how can you take people like that seriously? I think it's Supra who made a statement like that, completely senseless statement. But the president, former president, or president of the ANC, they continue to be called president even after this thing. It's a sad position that he has taken. If he really feels that there are people who were destructive to the cause, the ANC, it is a completely irresponsible way of exposing to take advantage of this platform.
There is the issue around the president, the now president, Mr. Msimang. Some feel that the president did not take the country into his confidence yesterday. He should have said more, specifically around the use of money. A question was directed at the president to say, why did you feel it necessary to raise that amount of money for a campaign for the ANC presidency? The use of money in ANC elective conferences is a long-standing issue, I think, dating back to Mafigeng. You then have it crystallized in 2017 by the diagnostic report of the Secretary General, Gwede Mantashe. Does the president owe the country more than what he said yesterday?
You know, it is, what's most embarrassing about this is that so much money is being used for people to become presidents. Understand it's 400 million or something around that figure. You know, people must know that the old saying that who pays the piper
calls the tune.
Calls the tune. You know, there's white monopoly capital people that are always talked about. If it's them who gave the president this money, it was with the expectation that they would call the tune. If the Guptas gave equity to Duzane Zuma in their companies and did all the other favors to the Zuma family, it is because they were expecting to call the tune, and we know they did. If people who sell contraband cigarettes assist a Malema with his tax problems or registration of his party, it is because they expect at a certain time they'll call the tune. He'll come to their defense. So drug lords pay police monies so that they can call the tune. I am very perturbed, that so much money is paid for ANC people to become leaders. For Christ's sake, you have 4,000, 4,500, 5,000 people that you want, delegates that you appeal to give you their votes. Why so much money? Who gets this money to do what in order that you become president? Whether it is Cyril Ramaphosa or Nkosazana Zuma, I don't know how much was given to her. And I'm not saying they must go and investigate and so on. It just destroys the ANC even more. The fact of so much money being paid to ANC leaders to attain that high position is very worrying, because those who pay the pipers here are going to expect something.
Should the president be trusted? Yes or no?
No, I wouldn't go so far as to be judgmental on that one. I do wish he had not responded technically to questions that were being asked. To disclose that, yes, there is a lot of money that was paid into me. I wish he had done that.
Mavusum Simang, thank you very much for giving us your time, sir.